Wichita mornings did not rush. The city woke slowly. Streets did not fill all at once. Sounds did not overlap. First, a single car would start, then the sound of doors opening from a few houses. Radios turned on, usually kept low. Weather reports, farm news. The same sentences, the same tone. People liked this order. Trust was not something spoken about loudly here. It was something accepted without question. Doors were locked, but not checked twice. Windows were closed, but no one watched the street from behind the curtains. No one thought someone might be watching them at night, because there was no reason to. Dennis Rader began his mornings the same way. When the alarm went off, he got up immediately. He sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the silence of the room for a few seconds. Then he stood up and went to the bathroom. He brushed his teeth, washed his face, and looked into the mirror in the same order every day. What he saw in the mirror was ordinary. He liked that. When he went into the kitchen, he made his coffee and sat at the table. He held the mug, but did not drink right away. He watched the steam rise. He waited for the heat to slowly fade. For him, control was sometimes nothing more than waiting. Outside, the city began to move. The same houses, the same sidewalks, the same trees. Very little changed in Wichita. People acted as if they knew one another, but they did not really know each other. Greetings were exchanged, short conversations happened, and then everyone returned to their own lives. Dennis Rader was exactly that. A man returning to his own life. Rules mattered at his workplace. Order mattered. It was clear how things were supposed to be done. He took that seriously. He noticed other people's mistakes, corrected them, warned them when necessary. He did not raise his voice. There was no need. Authority could be quiet. People trusted him. At home, he was a family man. There were children, evening dinners, weekend plans, ordinary arguments. Neighbors nodded when they saw him. He was regular at church. He attended meetings. He took on responsibilities. Keys were given to him. Rules were entrusted to him. No one thought this was strange. Because Wichita was full of people like this. Quiet, orderly, invisible. The city was full of people it felt safe around. In the early 1970s, danger was an abstract idea for Wichita. It was seen as a problem of big cities. Things watched on television, read in newspapers, but not something that would happen here. People could walk at night, leave their children with neighbors, open their doors without questioning who would be standing there. When the doorbell rang, the door was opened. Dennis Rader noticed this trust. Over the years, it was impossible not to. He saw how defenseless houses were, how unprepared people lived. But this was not something everyone in the city saw. It was the kind of detail noticed only by someone who knew how to look. He was looking. Sometimes in the evenings, he drove around in his car, without a specific purpose. He passed through streets and looked at houses, lights, curtains, cars, who was home, who was not. It had become a habit, but he did not define it that way to himself. To him, it was just observation. He was not doing anything yet. There was no urgency. The city was in place. Life was moving forward. People were safe. They felt safe. This was the last state before the break, and Wichita did not know it. The first break, the Otero family. The Otero family's house had settled early that evening. The cold of January had been felt throughout the day. The heater was running inside. In the kitchen, the last dishes of the day had been washed, the counter wiped clean. The children had gone to their rooms. The television was off. Silence had settled into the house. But it was not an uneasy silence. It was an ordinary night. Joseph Otero was sitting in the living room. The day was over. There was nothing else to do. Julie Otero passed through the kitchen and turned off the light. The children's rooms were checked one more time. Everything was in its place. When the knock came, it was not late. The door was not hit hard. There was no urgency. It sounded like someone who was sure the door would be opened. Joseph stood up. He did not look through the window. He did not check the chain. People in Wichita did not do those things. When he opened the door, he saw a calm man standing there. The man did not introduce himself. He simply began to speak. He said his car had broken down. He said he needed help. There was no panic in his voice. He did not put his hand in his pocket. He did not step back. He stayed where he was. Joseph listened. The man took a step forward. As he spoke, he looked into the house. He saw the lights. He understood there were others inside. His tone did not change. When he showed the gun, he still was not shouting. The gun was not raised. It was not pointed at Joseph's chest. It was simply there, like a warning. The man said things could be easy. He said everyone needed to stay calm. He said he did not want to hurt anyone. Julie had come into the living room by then. She had heard the conversation. When she saw the gun, she stopped. She did not run back. She did not call out to the children. She listened to every word the man said. When the children were called, they did not fully understand what was happening. They looked at their parents' faces. There was an expression they were not used to seeing. But there was no panic, only silence. The man told them to lie down. When he took out the rope he had brought with him, there was no turning back. The rope was not random. It had been cut, prepared. As the man tied Joseph's hands, he continued talking. He explained how they should behave. He said if they stayed quiet, everything would be over. Julie did not cry as she was tied. The children were afraid, but they did not scream. Screaming had not solved anything in that house so far. The man worked methodically. He did not rush. He checked the knots. He watched to see if anyone moved. The gun was still there, but it was never used. Then the sounds stopped. Joseph was first. The man moved behind him. He applied pressure. He waited. Joseph's body resisted at first, then slowed. The man did not let go. He waited until it was finished. The same process was repeated for Julie. The children were still alive. The man checked the silence in the room. He could hear his own breathing. The house was no longer what it had been moments before. He approached the children. They had already been tied. He did not tell them what would happen. There was no need to. When he finished, the house was completely silent. The man did not rush. He walked around. He wiped the places he had touched. He straightened a chair. He nudged the edge of the carpet with his foot. He checked the lights and turned one off. No one was left in the house, but order still mattered. As he left through the door, he looked back. The outside of the house was still ordinary. The next day, when a family member arrived and noticed the door was not locked, the first thing felt was the cold. Then the silence. Then the sight. When the police arrived, nothing was clear. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle. The gun had not been fired. Everyone had been tied. Everyone had been killed. This was a first for Wichita. The newspapers chose their words carefully the next day. People talked, but in whispers. No one said out loud that they were afraid. But doors were locked a little earlier that night. Dennis Rader went to work that day. No one looked at him differently. a repeating hunting cycle. After the Otero house, the city remained quiet for a long time. Weeks passed, then months. People talked about what had happened, but the conversations were brief. There was no clear explanation. The police were not saying anything. Newspapers had no new developments to report. Uncertainty slowly became habit. Dennis Rader noticed this silence. Silence was not relief for him. It was more like a void. After that house, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. But he did not rush. He continued the same life. He went to work. He came home. He went to church. He did not draw attention to himself. But he kept watching. Catherine Bright caught his attention during this time. She was young. She had an ordinary life. The times she left in the morning and returned in the evening were predictable. She was often alone at home. She locked the door, but to Dennis that was just a detail. From the outside, the house looked unprotected. He waited for days, watching her. He learned when the lights turned on and off. He saw who came and went. He did not rush. This time he wanted to be prepared. When he entered the house, Catherine was inside. It did not go as planned. He could not take control immediately. There was resistance. Voices rose. Catherine screamed. This was something Dennis did not want. Control slipped from his hands for a moment. Then Kevin Bright appeared. The house he had thought was empty was not empty anymore. Dennis used his gun. Kevin was badly wounded, but even as he collapsed, he was not completely incapacitated. Catherine was wounded. Dennis tried to regain control, but the plan was already broken. He had to escape. When he left the house, he left behind a living witness. That was a mistake. Catherine Bright later died from her injuries. Kevin survived. This mattered to the police. For the first time, there was an account, a face, a voice, a struggle that had been lived. But it was still not enough. Dennis thought about this incident for a long time. He repeatedly evaluated where the mistake had been made. From then on, he would choose houses with a single victim, quieter, more controlled. In 1977, he chose Shirley Vian. Shirley lived alone. Her days looked the same. Her return times were predictable. No one was waiting for her. Dennis watched the house for days, learning when she left and when she came back. When he entered, everything went as planned. The door opened. Conversation began. The gun was shown. Shirley was tied. Resistance was brief this time. Dennis did not rush. He kept control from beginning to end. The murder happened quietly. When he left the house, the same questions were left behind. That same year, Nancy Fox. Nancy had returned from work in the evening. She was alone at home. The television was on. When Dennis knocked on the door, the scenario was already set. Nancy was convinced before she let him inside. The gun was shown. She was tied. The murder was brief. But this time, Dennis did something more. After returning home, he picked up the phone. He called the police. In a calm voice, he told them where a body could be found. He gave the address. Then he hung up. It was a challenge. When the police went to Nancy Fox's house, they found what he had said was true. Now someone was not only killing, he wanted to be heard. The city tightened again. Still, fear never fully settled. Because the attacks were spaced apart. Because no one knew when the next one would be. Because most of the time, nothing happened. For Dennis Rader, repetition became easier each time. But mistakes were also accumulating, and he knew it. A double life. From the outside, nothing changed in Dennis Rader's life after the murders. He still woke up early in the mornings. He poured his coffee into the same mug and sat quietly at the table for a few minutes. He left the house at the same time, took the same roads. When he arrived at work, he nodded to people and went to his desk. No one kept their distance from him. No one looked more carefully, because there was nothing to see. Rules at work were clear. Dennis took them seriously. He expected others to do the same. Trash containers had to be in the right place. Fences had to meet regulations. People were not supposed to argue when warned. He did not build authority by shouting. He built it quietly. People did not enjoy arguing with him because he was right, because the rule said so. This feeling was familiar to him. At home, he was a father. He was there when the children came home from school. He talked to them, asked questions, listened to answers. Dinners were regular. Family photos filled the house. Vacations were planned. Short conversations happened with neighbors. Church mattered to him. He attended meetings. He took on duties. Keys were entrusted to him. He opened and closed the church. He reminded people of the rules. He maintained order. People found him reliable. That trust mattered to him. Because trust meant invisibility. After the murders, what was said in the city reached him. Newspapers, radio broadcasts, voices that sounded worried but careful. No one said out loud that they were afraid. No one said, "This could be someone near us." He was near them. Some nights he could not sleep for a long time. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. He replayed the moments again and again, where things could have been better, where control had been clearer, where he had made mistakes. The Catherine Bright case never left his mind. There had been a survivor. This was difficult for him to accept, but it was also instructive. From then on, he was more careful, more selective, more patient. Returning to normal life immediately after the murders was a skill for him. Going to work the next morning did not conflict with what he had done the night before. On the contrary, the two seemed to complete each other. An orderly life made the hidden life even more invisible. No one could look at his face and guess what he had done at night. Over time, fear in the city changed shape. People changed their locks, some installed alarms, but there was no widespread panic, because the attacks did not continue steadily. There were long gaps in between. Those gaps mattered to Dennis. Waiting was part of his control. While waiting, he watched. While watching, he planned. While planning, no one noticed. But something was missing: recognition. He felt that what he had done was not echoing through the city. People talked, then forgot. Files were shelved. Detectives changed. Names disappeared. He did not want to be forgotten. But it was not time yet. First, a longer silence was needed. The long silence, 1978 to 2003. The silence did not begin all at once. At first, the gaps grew longer. Then years passed. Names disappeared from newspapers. Files were moved to the lower shelves of cabinets. Wichita slowly stopped remembering its old fear. Dennis Rader watched this, forgetting closely. From the outside, his life seemed even more settled. His responsibilities at work increased. People consulted him. Neighbors trusted him. He had influence at church. The keys were still with him. The rules still came from his mouth. But the pressure inside him was growing. The murders were treated as if they belonged to the past. But for him, they were not finished, only suspended. He was waiting. He did not know when, but he knew it would happen again. When he noticed Maureen Hedge, he understood that the long silence would break. Maureen lived a quiet life that did not draw attention. She had habits, predictable routes. Her exit times from work could be guessed. Dennis did not see her as a coincidence. He watched her for a long time. This time there was no rush. He waited for months. He learned where she parked her car, the paths she walked, who saw her and who did not. He remembered his previous mistakes. This time he wanted control from beginning to end. The abduction was silent. Maureen disappeared suddenly. There were people who had seen her that day, but no one noticed anything strange. There were no screams, no struggle, just an absence. Dennis took her out of the city. There, in a place where he believed no one would come, he finished it. He did not go into detail. There was no need. The outcome would not change. He hid the body, left it to nature. He knew time and animals would complete the work. Then he returned to his life. Maureen's disappearance was reported for a while. Her family hoped, police searched, but there were no leads. Months later, when bones were found, there was no longer any return. The exact manner of death could not be determined. Only what had happened was known. After this murder, Dennis stopped. This pause lasted longer. As the years passed, the name BTK completely disappeared. A new generation of police officers heard the case only in training. The city was busy with other things. New crimes, new worries, new lives. Dennis felt this forgetting, and it disturbed him. Something tightened inside him. There was control, but it was invisible. There was power, but it was not recognized. What he had done echoed only in his own mind. That was not enough for him, but he waited. Waiting was what he knew best. The return, letters. Being forgotten was heavier than silence for Dennis Rader. For years, no one had spoken. Newspapers had not reopened old files. Police were busy with other crimes. Wichita believed it had left its past behind. Houses were full. Streets had changed. Fewer people remembered the name Otero. When Dennis realized this, something inside him shifted. The power was still there. The sense of control was still intact. But it was not visible. No one was thinking about him. No one was afraid of him. Yet he believed that what he had done needed meaning. He needed to leave a mark. He had built an order, and he wanted that order to be recognized. Before writing the first letter, he thought for a long time. Word choice mattered. He did not want to sound emotional or rushed. The tone had to be calm, informed, in control. The letter should read more like a correction than a threat, as if someone had written something wrong and he was obliged to fix it. When the letter was mailed, there was no expression on his face. He waited. Days later, something changed in the news. Newspapers began to mention the old murders. Police said there was new information. People heard the same names again after many years. BTK. Even the choice of the name was calculated. Short, clear, no explanation needed. A label for his method. Something people would remember. More letters followed. In some, he described old murders. In others, he mocked the police. He gave details. He offered information that had never been public. But his language was always calm. He never shouted. He never begged. He positioned himself as a narrator. The media noticed immediately. Television programs discussed the letters. Newspapers published them line by line. Police were forced to make statements. Old fear slowly returned to Wichita. People began questioning their doors again after many years. Dennis watched everything. He turned on the television, lowered the volume, and watched faces. The tone of the anchors, the posture of police chiefs. He saw that everyone was taking him seriously. Control had returned. But this time it was different. He was older now. Time had passed. Technology had changed. But he still believed he was playing the same game. He thought he still knew the rules. He decided to ask the police a question, a floppy disk. He asked whether discs could be traced. It seemed like a reasonable question to him. When the police answered, he trusted what they said. Trust had always worked for him. The disc was prepared. The file was saved, labeled, mailed. Dennis did not see this as a mistake. At that moment, he believed control was still his. Error and collapse. The floppy disk was an ordinary object when it left Dennis Rader's hand. Plastic, light, no meaningful markings on it. When he mailed it, he did not look around. He did not turn back to check. As he had for years, he believed the rules were still working in his favor. But this time, the rules had changed. When the disc reached the police, it was examined quietly. The file inside was opened. The text was read. Then the disc itself was examined. Details that had never been considered before were considered. Where had it been created? On which computer? In what environment? The answers came quickly. The disc pointed to a computer used at a church. Access to that computer was limited. The list of names narrowed quickly. One of those names was familiar, trusted, quiet. Dennis Rader. Police did not rush. They did not take him immediately. They watched him for days. His commute to work, his return home, where he parked his car, how orderly his life was. Everything was consistent. Consistency worked against him this time. The day he was arrested was ordinary. He was stopped while driving. The officers spoke calmly. Dennis remained calm as well. He did not run. He did not shout. He only listened. His first questions were simple. He asked whether his wife knew. He asked how much they knew. His tone did not change. In the interrogation room, he sat properly in his chair. When questions came, he answered them. He did not evade. He did not deny. He corrected details. When dates were wrong, he intervened. He wanted his story told accurately. He described the murders one by one. How he chose, how he waited, how he controlled. He did not raise his voice. He did not dramatize details. It sounded like a report. When the court date arrived, the room was full. The victims' families were there. The answers they had waited for years were now only a few feet away. When Dennis stepped to the stand, he did not make eye contact. He looked at his papers. He began to read. Names were listed, dates, addresses. Each murder created a different silence in the room. Some lowered their heads. Some stood up and left. Some stayed and listened. Dennis finished them all. The sentence was clear. Life in prison. No parole. Legally, the story was over. But not in Wichita. The houses were still there. The streets were the same. New people lived at old addresses. Most did not know what those houses had witnessed. Dennis Rader now lives in a cell. His days are defined by rules. Control is in other hands. But he continues to write, to tell, to remind, to be seen. The city still wakes slowly in the mornings. Radios remain low, doors are locked but not checked in a rush. And sometimes, the feeling that nothing has changed is more disturbing than remembering what happened. When Dennis Rader's name was entered into the files, life in the city did not stop. The trial ended. The news moved on. People kept going to work in the mornings. Children went to school. Markets opened. Church doors opened at the same hours on Sunday mornings. Time forced everything to be accepted as it was. Cars passing the Otero house did not slow down. Most drivers did not know what the address meant. Even if they did, there was nothing to see. Houses did not tell their stories from the outside. Walls remained silent. Some nights, police records showed nothing at all. That was considered a good night. Dennis Rader did not count his days in his cell. There was no need. He knew the days would not take him anywhere. But he still wrote, took notes, reorganized the past. In his own mind, he was still a narrator. Outside, people continued to lock their doors, but most no longer remembered why they locked them. Perhaps that was the most disturbing part. Not that everything had ended, but that everything had become ordinary again. Because Wichita mornings still did not rush, and some things only truly settle when they remain quiet.